Hello, welcome to Show Studio's live panel discussions. This season, Milan Fashion Week kicked off with a show we won't soon forget. To celebrate Dsquared's 30th anniversary, creative directors Dean and Dan hosted a party to celebrate their contributions to fashion. It was bold, camp, and dripping with nostalgia. And as a fellow Canadian turning 30, gave me some big party envy. To break down the collection and Dsquared's legacy, I've invited a crew of 365 party girls to give their thoughts. And if you're joining us from YouTube Live, please send in any questions for me and the panelists. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, I'm Princess Julia.
I'm Yaz, I'm a photographer.
Hi, I'm Bauti, part of OPIA, a fashion queer rave party girl.
Hi, I'm Bambi, and I'm the other part of the OPIA fashion party queer rave girl.
Hi, I'm Briana, and I am a designer.
Thank you for joining me. And if you're joining from home, make sure to go to showstudio.com and check out Ibery Grace, our expert fashion AI, with any other questions you have about Fashion Week. So, Dsquared, 30 years in the business. They've never been strangers to spectacle, and this was their biggest show yet, a real fusion of music, fashion, and pop culture. Dochi opened. There was also JT and Ali Chapa. We saw Naomi Campbell close the show, and Flava Flav Flame, Bridget Nielsen, walking out with the designers. The show was called #Obsessed, so I have to start with, are we #obsessed with Dsquared Autumn Winter 25? Julia?
Oh, hi, yeah. Yeah, we are obsessed, and I feel like we've been obsessed with Dsquared for 30 years, actually. They keep coming back with signature looks and new looks, and have reinvented themselves over and over into a brand that we definitely covet.
Mm-hmm. Briana, I know you are a Dsquared super fan, and you buy a lot of their archive pieces. What did you think of the show?
I love Dsquared, just like her. I think that I'm a fan, and I was just telling you before, I think of all the brands that show, Dsquared is one of the only brands that I really, really would shop from. And like when I go into their store, I can always, like, there's things that I just need. So yeah, I love what they do.
Yeah, I'm #obsessed. Boots. I feel like the performance, they always bring it with that, like Dochi at the beginning doing the run, like Naomi did. I really love that. And the getting arrested at the end. Oh.
Yeah, it was like a yassified Stonewall protest in a way. Yeah, I think I'm quite obsessed. I think also the maximalist, styling heavy take is maybe what makes it so shoppable as well, is it really feels like any consumer can mix and match, because that's their outlook from the get-go, is quite mix and match everything together. So I slay for it. I slay.
Yeah.
I think they're really giving the Depop girlies a run for their money. Like, that's one of the brands I shop for most, but this is like a nod to the past, but also a lot of new stuff. Oh, it's just great, I love it.
I want to talk about nostalgia and the digital age a bit, but first I want to ask Julia, because she actually lived with Dean and Dan in Milan before they started Dsquared.
Yeah, I actually, in the 90s, I used to DJ a lot in Italy, and one of the places I used to go to was to Rimini, Riccione, and I did a short season, so I lived there in Riccione, and my flatmates next door were Dean and Dan, and that's where I first met them in the early 90s. And we have remained friends over the years, actually, funnily enough. But what was really interesting was like they had a little sewing machine in their room, and they used to whip up these outfits. Every week they had to have new ones, and the big hat, the deer trapper hat, that was one of the looks. So I do sometimes see their signature looks coming from their early days as dancers in nightclubs in Italy coming through, and they're still working the same looks. So amazing, right? So what you might think is a sort of noughties look, early noughties look, is actually an early 90s look that they were conjuring up. So yeah, so I had that. I had some great conversations with Dean and Dan at the time where they were very focused on their dreams, and their dreams were to create this brand, this label, and they made it come true.
I thought the show was like, a lot of quotes from them in interviews talk about how they were just twin brothers from a small town in Canada with all of these dreams of Studio 54 and nightlife and fashion. And this show really speaks to that world they've built and that attitude and signature look they've built. What is it about Dsquared that has given them that longevity?
You can wear it like anywhere. Like it can be something you wear in the day, like the denim, the leather jacket kind of thing, but it also works for the club. I think that is one of the biggest things, especially like if you're going to invest in a piece. Personally, I want to be able to wear it in loads of situations. I don't want it to just sit in my closet until the right thing. I want to be able to wear it like anywhere, everywhere.
Yeah, but they've blurred the division from day to night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can just keep going, because we're busy, aren't we? We're busy.
Yeah, no one's got time to go home.
Yeah, we haven't got time. Like, maybe change your shoes in the toilets. Pile on more makeup.
Literally, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's, to me, they're kind of, as a brand kind of situated in Milan, I feel like in a way they are outsiders given their being from Canada and studying in New York and bringing in like, no shade, but like lowbrow Americana, like consumerist pop culture into European elegance luxury brands. So I think that for me is a credit to their longevity, because I feel like most people feel like outsiders for Milan as a fashion week and as everything. It tends to be a hard one to crack in between fashion giants. So yeah, I think a lot of people relate to this tension between European elegance and extravaganza, but then also having such a pop cultural obsession and tying into this like new world outlook on North America.
It kind of makes it classic in a way, the way that they do that, like the balancing of like something that's really high fashion, but just like also just something that's like every day, I guess. And I also really like too how with Dsquared, it becomes like a Dsquared look. Like, you know, like when you're looking at them on the runway, like I want to dress like that. Like I want to wear that. I want to wear super short shorts and a hat. And then it's like you look like a Dsquared model. Like I actually was a Dsquared model for Halloween one year. So cute.
Yeah, I feel like they're very just like identifiable, you know, like you know the Dsquared pieces, like you see the hat and you know exactly who it is, which I think also helps.
I don't think that irreverent approach to fashion and fashion's codes is new. We see brands like Moschino really adopting it. But when I compare Dsquared to those brands, I feel like they tackle it with some kind of slant on society and what pop culture in this space means, which I don't really see with Dsquared. It's almost all surface value in my perspective. I don't know what anyone else thinks of that.
Well, you know, they come from clubland, really, essentially, and I think their looks over the years have reflected that actually a lot, and I like the sort of camp value of what they come up with, you know, and I'm not sure if I want to use this word, but they're fun. Yeah. You know, it's really good fun, you know,
That's what I
like
like about it. It's so sexy.
attitudey, you can walk into a space and serve, you know, that they do that every season. Mm-hmm. And then they've got these references, like the Leatherman references, you know, it's like queer culture once again coming through. And they mix it up with a bit of rock culture, with the Kiss makeup, suited and booted type looks as well.
I thought the most interesting part of the collection was actually in who they decided to collaborate with. So they did a couple looks from that New York label, Vacura. They did a couple looks from Magliano, Kiss, Ducati, and Better. That's one of the looks. What did we think about that idea of kind of bringing in these young designers and these brands to celebrate their 30th anniversary?
I think it's good. It's really good. And even though it was very nostalgic, and like something you mentioned, like it references a lot of their old stuff, and it feels very much like one of their old shows. Like there's a lot of familiar pieces. When you bring in those new designers, you're not going to have something that isn't original. Like it's influenced for sure, but there's somebody else's take on it, and I think that's what keeps it like feeling new and fun, and like people still can engage with it, like audiences who are young and also audiences who are old, and also their models. Like they had that guy from TikTok back, I think that's how you say his name, and also Naomi Campbell, like a big range of people participating. So it's such a good thing that they're involving these new designers and new faces as well.
Yeah.
I love a collaboration because I feel that when someone new comes into the frame, it brings a fresh pair of eyes to the proceedings, you know, and it just, somebody else coming in makes you look at something in a different way. And that's why, as you said, it looks new. You know, that's the same with everything creative, I feel.
Yeah, it's the best thing they could have done, really.
But then shouldn't we want them as designers at the pinnacle of this fashion forum to bring new themselves? To kind of step forward into this next era of their brand?
Yeah.
Challenge themselves rather than rehash a lot of what they've done before. We saw the ice skate shoes on the runway. Dochi's opening was kind of a remake of that Naomi Campbell Autumn Winter 04 show opening.
I personally wish they would have done something different. Like, I feel like it should have still been Dochi, but just a new thing. Like, it's like, this is so iconic, you know, that it's just like, yeah, I think it's good to be nostalgic, but also to like switch it up and give us something fresh and new to see.
I think that's how I approached it, because this clip is
just too iconic to touch.
Iconic. It's viral. It's always on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. People look back on this time and time again. Same with the ice skate heels. It's one of those viral moments that are viral for a reason, because they existed in that time, and to redo it or reimagine it for now kind of robs us of a new viral moment, a new culturally relevant piece of media.
True. Yeah. But I do feel like they're doing it for a reason, and also it's a whole new audience of people now, especially on TikTok, that are seeing those shoes, and it's like they will be reintroduced to that. Also, they love having them get out of vehicles.
Yeah,
Like that is a common theme. Yeah, exactly. It's like, get them out the car. They need maybe a new set, something else.
Yeah, I do think, like, in this, going with what you talked about, nostalgia as well, I think everything is a reference of a reference of a reference. When we think of, like, Dsquared versus like Balenciaga versus Moschino's, like McDonald's, fries, iPhone cases. One conversation is like, who is most worthy or does a reference best? Is it maybe Dsquared that is a party girl, or is it Balenciaga who is this like French whatever, Gila monster? And then I think then that's maybe one side is who is most valid in referencing, and then another one we're looking at now is also like timing wise, the temporality of a reference, and like if Dsquared is just going back and back and back, or I guess in society in general, it is like once we've referenced everything up until 2025, are we just void? Do I just unalive myself? I'm like, what do we do?
Because I guess that's like my question or understanding of this is.
I feel like I would have liked to see. I actually tweeted about this with the skate shoe. As a vintage girl, I don't think they should have brought them back. And I feel like they should just make something new that's like that. You know what I mean? I think that's the way to like reimagine things, in my opinion.
Looking at the collection, what stood out to us? What are we really enjoying from it?
The leather pieces the guys are wearing, inspired by that artist, remind me of...
Tom of Finland.
Yes, that I loved. I love it when fashion takes inspiration from art and illustration, because that intersection, I think that's where new ideas will come from, is when we intersect like fine art with sculpture, with fashion, with music and whatever. And we keep like looking towards our bigger creative neighborhood, kind of, you know, not just the fashion world and other labels, and ourselves, but the other people who are also creative. I think that was really fun, and also culturally significant, because that artist did like an important thing at that time, you know, with queer voices. So it's important, and when fashion is used as a vehicle for that as well, that's when like I think it really starts to get good, because people's voices, stories that need to be told, start getting told and platformed.
I love a Tom of Finland reference.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I can't help that. I love the art. It's good.
I feel like in terms of party girl brands, Dsquared is like maybe the most utilitarian or more like combat inspired. Like you have party girl brands that are for the sake of a party girl, and then Dsquared does party girl with a bit of cowboy, with a bit of military, and a bit of edge. And I think like the classic idea for me is like a sheer glittery dress with a huge bomber and one of those trapper hats. And I think it is that idea of a party girl who's ready for combat and winter. I will say this season, I felt like shoe-wise, it wasn't really giving combat wear as much. There were some references, but I thought it could have gone crazier. I feel like this season, maybe their whole combat lore was actually with showing skin, and the skin element was more armor for this season. I think that also just goes into using more dolls and like using a more diverse cast and like this element of celebrity where the armor or like this grungy appeal is you don't have to show as much in a shoe, because the girls you have walking are giving that edge, and they're giving that like sex appeal and the nowness that they're maybe looking for. I don't know.
We have a question from YouTube. What does Dsquared need to do to stay relevant both culturally and commercially in the upcoming years? And looking at this collection, how do we think it speaks to or reflects to fashion today? Because their aesthetic hasn't really changed.
But it's kind of like what Bautista was saying, the people wearing them is really like, I mean, it's kind of what they had been doing for a long time with the celebrities they'd worked with in their shows, but it's the people wearing them. They've got like people famous from TikTok, musicians like Dochi, who's just blown up. They were already famous, but you know. And that is a huge way, like referencing pop culture, not only with the design of the clothes, but the brand image, which goes far beyond the actual clothes now, especially with social media and so many people being able to engage with like visual media. Before it was only like you go to the store to buy the clothes and then you understand the brand, but now it's not like that. So they have to think about the world they're building.
See, I think the trend cycle has just shifted in favor of this.
Yeah. Yeah. They're
like,
lucky.
Yeah, they are, because if their 30th anniversary and the show was, I don't know, 5-7 years ago, I don't think people would be as excited by it. And there are definitely people out there who hated the show and hate Dsquared because of
Yeah, what are they saying?
ideas of taste. Cohesion, I think, is a big critique of this collection.
I mean, this is the greatest hits, so it's really presented
greatest
as
hit.
such. You know, I think we have to remember that. So I think going forward,
We'll see.
let's be excited about what they sort of unleash on us next season. I'll be interested to see where they're going. But, you know, it's the classics. And they have got new shapes in this collection, I feel. And I am enjoying the sort of layering up. You know, the cap with the cowboy hat.
Yeah, layering, because
There's
that's
a lot of
trend that
layering.
came from like TikTok, which was just when people started layering. I mean, I do this, layering random stuff. I think a lot of CSM students do that as well, and it's just a way to like make your outfits new without having to buy new clothes. Like it comes from practical places, so it's cool to see it referenced in like high fashion, because anyone can also participate in that with their own wardrobe.
Yeah, I feel like the cohesion critique I'm not fussed by, because I feel like with maximalist aesthetics, it's kind of like, girl, whatever, like, doesn't matter. But I do think, and I do hear what you're saying. Oops, my vape. I see like this nostalgia element, like it posing a really interesting question, which I do kind of want to ask to us is, if this is the greatest hits collection, do you see yourself buying from this season, or would you rather buy an archive piece?
That is a really good
Like the
point.
exact same shoe, the ice skating shoe, would you buy it now or the original?
Maybe
I would want the original.
Bree can answer this.
I mean, I would definitely buy the original for sure. But also, I think with a lot of this stuff, you can't find the original. Like the just underwear and like different hats and stuff. It is kind of cool to bring it back. And I do understand, like, it's their anniversary and they are trending. So why not like capitalize on that? And it's kind of like, just kind of like a cool thing that the universe did for them maybe. Where it's just like, all right, cool, yeah, this is like our anniversary and we are gonna celebrate by bringing things back. But yeah, I would buy the vintage if I could. Yeah.
I mean, if they're runway, there might not be that many pairs of them, so...
Oh, they're doing it pre-order.
Oh, what I mean is, like, in the archive sense, if you're looking for the original versions,
Yeah, exactly.
they might have not made that many of them.
No, exactly.
So it does open
Let's
up.
get on the pre-order.
Yes.
The idea of reissuing does open it up to a completely new audience who didn't get to experience it in the first place, which I think is always super fun.
Yeah, exactly.
We have another question from YouTube. Is this idea of sexiness dictated by two men getting boring? Do they need to move past it? Which I think is a very valid question when we talk about fashion as a whole, especially fashion that veers into this very sexy territory.
I would really like to know what this person thinks is sexy. Like just genuine like, what do they think is sexy?
Let us know what you think.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
This is sexy.
That's the thing. I think this is sexy. Like I would be so happy to wear.
I would love to see a new sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think there was a lot of like value with Doechii. Doechii's been like repping a lot of Thom Browne, and that's been really fierce. But Thom Browne is like a little, I think it's Thom Browne.
Thom Browne, yeah.
Okay, see. Thom Browne is like a little preppy, and they've definitely done fun garments, like showing a lot of leg, but it's just not what I would see as sexy, I guess. Whereas seeing Doechii in this light was a really fun moment for me. You know?
Yes.
I like to, yeah. I like that about brands.
I don't know. I do think this is cooler. I love Dsquared, but I think Doechii and Thom Browne, this preppy aesthetic is something that is usually used for like rappers like Tyler the Creator. It's not something that then female rappers get to explore as much, like the preppy look. So I feel like that might be a newer. Thom Browne might be more innovative for Doechii in offering Doechii a new
But is it
flavor.
sexy?
But is it sexy? No, it's not. Yeah.
Is she sexy?
I think the question
Yeah.
might also be framed around ideas of misogyny and having these two white male designers kind of create this image based off of many a reference, including hip hop culture, Studio 54, disco.
Yeah. And also you have to remember like fashion at the time that they're referencing, like early 2000s, is really like problematic as well. So that's the thing with this like brand, what you mentioned as well, is it being a little bit too naive and, you know, not acknowledging like now these like ethical considerations that fashion is working really, really hard to, you know, introduce and evolve with to, you know, combat those like harmful social structures that it was reinforcing. And I think it is definitely in some way, but with the cast. But you know, when you do reference so heavily from that time where everyone looks a certain way, there is that like view of criticism there. You can't really avoid that.
Yeah. I feel like that goes back to like the critique of who gets to make the reference.
Yeah, exactly.
And I
Where it
agree.
originated and
Yeah, or who? Yeah, exactly. Who gets to make the reference? How does it work with its origins? I agree. They're not, you know, they're not our best case scenario to be making these references. But I think in the context of Milan, like their next door neighbor is Dolce & Gabbana. No shade to Bambi and I, but they would have a field day with us. I think that they would rip us apart.
Yeah.
Like they famously hate everybody. So I'm kind of like, lesser of two evils, have two gay men give me their 2 cents.
I think we do also have to remind the viewers of Julia's story, and this is really a life that they lived and have been inspired by and sought out and sought to be a part of. And actually what they're doing is bringing this world in their most fantastical way to life on a stage like Milan Fashion Week.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Cher?
OT, the Amelia Gray of it all.
Amelia Gray wore a look that was a
Yeah.
Bob Mackie pretty much replica.
Yeah.
And there was another Cher look that was there.
That one.
What did we think about that idea?
Yeah, I love Bob Mackie.
I love Bob Mackie.
I mean, you know, I love Cher. And like Dean and Dan, they're quite camp.
Yeah, they're really camp.
You know, so why wouldn't they really? Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
You know, oh, she looks fabulous, doesn't she?
She does.
Well, I think it goes back to, again, my idea of, well, what have they done that has made it D-squared or different enough to warrant this on a runway?
They've sassified it.
Sassified
it, yeah.
And also it being on Amelia Gray,
Yeah, I
who's
feel like
like
the choice of that.
born from social media as well. Like her mum is Lisa Renner.
She is gorgeous.
Honestly, I think if Lisa Renner was in it, then that would have completed the reference. I don't know. That would have been really fun. But yeah, I think the fact that it's Amelia Gray wearing it is what kind of reinvents it a bit. Because she like found her fame through, well, not just through, but the internet really, really surged it. So it's like a weird parallel to share from a different time where that didn't exist.
Yeah.
A bit meta, I don't know.
Bree, what do you think?
I think like if it looks good, it's good. That's something that I just live by because I prefer for something to be classic than for it to be different, and I don't like it. And I like again like I don't like a lot of things that I see on the runway, so I like when something's cute, hot, sexy. It looks good.
Is there anything from this collection you don't like?
Yeah.
You say?
I don't know. I think I saw some of the purple things up there. I didn't like.
Scroll.
Yeah.
The jean,
Lost me here.
the jean chaps, I also thought were very strange.
Yeah, and the leather on the guys, like, to me, didn't look like.
Like I think as a reference, the Tom of Finland has been done better.
Yeah, I think that should have been done better for sure.
And I think there are just moments in this
It looks
collection
costumey. But
where their final product just looks worse than the inspiration they're pulling from. And that makes me, I guess, question the overall collection. That look next to the guy, there were a couple moments where I thought if you put a pair of angel wings on them, it would look Victoria's Secret.
Really scrutinising every detail. Now we're going in for the deep dive.
is this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, too.
That one, the one with
Which
the fur.
one? Which one?
You replaced that fur with angel wings. It was
Really?
would give Victoria's Secret.
All for the panties on the runway.
But it looks comfy.
I think that looks good.
Yeah, it looks
I don't know.
alright.
Like that is sexy.
All right, what about the glittery platformy boots? Oh, I saw that was the thing that people were like.
I thought they were.
men,
I don't know. I didn't love them. Also, that model couldn't walk in them.
But I was impressed.
We can't walk in ours.
That's the thing. The height of the heel, I was like, okay, I'm impressed with this.
Yeah.
I quite liked
Camp, and I
it.
think it's camp not to be able to walk in the heels.
I liked
You're right. Also, you have to, I think, like, this is a show. This is, like, not just a runway, it's a show. So you got to look at it from that perspective. And even though, like, I do agree, some of it feels a little bit costumey, maybe the execution, but altogether, like, they're working on that world building and that story.
Yeah, they're building it for
Like,
sure.
for me, that's what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Dsquared the musical.
Like,
Well, because I was genuinely wondering, I feel like 90s runway shows, everybody always talks performance. It feels like theater. And Dsquared like does a lot of performance-y, gaggy, extravaganza shows. But for me, like the past couple of years, you're seeing more performance, but it doesn't feel like theater or performance art. It feels like a Super Bowl halftime show.
Right.
And this is my favorite model in the world, Christina Spring Summer 2005. Like that was gaggy. But so my question is the Super Bowl effect to runway shows now? Would 90s shows, like the 90s McQueen, feel like a Super Bowl halftime show if it had been now?
I think the difference is the clothes were good. I think they've said in interviews that they look to the great showmen of fashion, like Mugler and Claude Montana and etc. But when you look back on those shows, the ideas, I think, really pushed the boundary. The conception, the actual garments really said something about where fashion is going. So when you kind of scratch the surface of this birthday bash, is there enough substance there?
Tea.
And does there have to be? I don't think there's anything more ego, I don't want to say egotistic, but like than having a birthday party, and having a birthday party at this level. So, I mean, you can't really fault them. I'm coming from the perspective of a fashion critic.
Which looks did you hate?
I'm letting go of hate in my heart this year. So, 26, I thought those jean boots.
26.
That. Oh, thanks, Michael. That offended me. I immediately thought of those Manolo Blahnik shoes that J-Lo wore, or like Balenciagas, and I thought they were done way better in that way. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's just something of taste, and it's not my taste. And I do think in Milan, a brand like Diesel is taking denim and really pushing the boundaries of denim, while also being rooted in nostalgia and the early 2000s, but constantly evolving with every collection to propose something new.
Can we talk about this rivalry vibe? Because I see so many similarities between Diesel and Dsquared. Diesel's holiday campaigns recently have felt a lot like Dsquared's old
editorials, in like the old magazines, Face whatever. They are so similar, and the old Diesel ones were quite different. They were more dark and grungy, but the Dsquared ones were more like light, uplifted, young, like sexy. So that is a really good point, actually.
Yeah, I feel like Dsquared is giving Pepsi, Diesel is giving Coca-Cola. You know, just to put it in another.
Dean and Dan
Which
did
one's
work at Diesel. So they
makes
at
sense.
some point helped shape Diesel's aesthetic and design language. So there is
Which
a
one do you think
crossover.
is better? I'm confused.
I don't think there's necessarily a better one. I mean, listen.
Which one
either
sells
brand
more?
pay me, and I'll say you're the better one. Just anybody pay me. But I don't know.
Should we Diesel or D-squared? Should we go in a circle? I would. I don't know.
I
I'm
already
kinda
said
torn.
Dsquared. I mean, Diesel just seems a bit.
Yeah, but Diesel's just got a new designer, hasn't it? Glenn Martin. So that's really exciting.
Yeah,
Let's see what we want to see. What happens next with
I like their
Diesel.
rebrand though. The rebrand is really, really good.
I like it a lot too.
They've really nailed that.
But I do agree. I think I might be a bit more of a D-squared girl. I love the maximalist.
Here we are.
Yeah,
Hey, I
same.
see
The
what you're
fur as well. I
saying.
feel like Dsquared has a bit more of the fur, the like,
Yeah.
and like a bit more movement in the like outfits as well. Like you can dance in them better. Where these, I love the corseted stuff, but I just like less movement happening.
I would say
I like less movement. As an elder in the community, I'm happy. Because I'm not going to fling myself around that much. Well, maybe a little bit. But what I'm saying, that there isn't bringing up age. There wasn't much of an intergenerational casting going on, and also there wasn't much body diversity going on in both collections here, which I think is interesting. That I think a lot of us in the UK really sort of are aware of those things. You know, that humankind is diverse. And we want to see diversity in the nature of the casting.
Yeah.
Really, well, I do. I want to see.
do.
You know, we want to see ourselves represented somewhere along the line.
Totally. I agree.
You know, when the
Before we-
sweet bird of youth has flown.
Before we round up the discussion, I do want to ask D-squared, Autumn Winter 25, 30th anniversary show. What do we think this says about fashion and pop culture today and moving forward?
I think it's comfortable and doesn't care about referencing itself so hard anymore because it knows it's going to trend. Like, they knew that this is going to trend online because it's already trending. And I don't know, they know that that is more valuable than maybe fashion critiques being like, should they be doing something new? Because the views are maybe more important to them. I don't know.
Anyone else? Any ideas about what this says as a reflection of our times?
I think that everything is a reference of a reference of a reference. Some people would say I'm a reference. I don't know, that's Sophia Vergara.
You are the reference.
Penelope Cruz. But yeah, everything is a reference. Maximalists go crazy, and then in a couple of years we'll just be void of references. Period.
Those references just keep going round and round.
They go round and round. But I do agree with what Princess Julia. Not another name. I do agree with what Princess Julia is saying about a bit of a lack of diversity or innovation. I think Diesel's a bit more innovative with its distressed denim and turning it into new textures. I think both, casting-wise, Dsquared has a lot of dolls, but I agree that for the sake of a reference, doing Cher on Amelia Gray isn't as gaggy boots as possibly bringing in a new face into that reference. I think it could have gone
I love that.
Crazier.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I think somebody else should have been that reference. I think honestly one of us. Please, Dsquared, please.
And I also think it comments on the time as well. Like, we've seen so many shows that are referencing party, rave culture, and like that seems to be so.
The infatuation with Studio 50.
Yeah, tea, and the party girls, and I just wonder where that's gonna go.
Bree? Any idea on what this
says?
or reflects?
Yeah, just nostalgic, honestly. I definitely think.
That was one diverse body. Sorry.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's just nostalgic, and it just shows that we're like in this time where I don't know if we're gonna let go. Like, I feel like when we stop referencing things, we'll just start back over at reference one and pick it back up. So that looks like what's happening, actually.
I mean, for every nasty thing I've said during this panel discussion, I do love seeing this as a spectacle, as a show, and hopefully it trickles down into getting more creatives to take this party idea, to take this fun, fluid sexuality, and push that, because we're coming out of
Clothes.
a very boring time in fashion, very quiet luxury time in fashion.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And yeah, I think there will always be space for bold, campy fashion.
Yeah.
Bring back Cam.
Amazing.
Yes, Cam.
Yes, Cam.
Thank you for joining us at Show Studio to talk through Dsquared Autumn Winter 25. Stay tuned for one more panel this season and head to showstudio.com for all of your Fashion Month coverage. Thank you.